Hello and welcome to the 28th edition of the Local Lowdown podcast. My name is Zach Bischoff, and I, as always, am joined by.
Danny Channel, sir.
All right, now that both of our audios are unmuted, now we can proceed. Danny, happy belated New Year to you. You're taping this on the. We're streaming this. I'm sorry. On the This is our first episode of the new year on the third day of January 2024. Danny, your thoughts on what 2024 will bring?
Zach,
Podcast
Happy New
again.
Year to you as well, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Um, no, I'm excited for 2024. It's always a great time of year, kind of a fresh start in January. So I'm
Mhm.
really looking forward to all that the new year will bring, man.
All right, thank you very much, Danny. All right, first off, then we're going to talk about the college football playoff first. Danny, I think these two games, excuse me, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, were two of the best college football games in the college football playoff era, which I believe is 2000 since 2012, I believe, with Alabama defeating, or excuse me, Michigan defeating Alabama in overtime by a score of 27-20, I believe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And also, we'll go there first. Danny, I understand you have the stats from that game.
Yeah, man. No, Zach, I completely agree with your saying that these two games are up there in college football playoff history because I mean both those games were super close, and we'll start obviously with the Rose Bowl. I mean, two teams that came in very, very um, good, but for different reasons. I think for JJ McCarthy on Michigan, he really stepped it up, especially in the second half, and going into the fourth quarter and overtime. I mean, he was 17 for 27, 220 yards and three touchdowns. That's exactly what you want from your quarterback there. I mean, he really stepped up after that first play. He almost threw an interception. The Alabama player came down with 1 foot out of bounds, so that negated the interception. But that's a heck of a way for JJ McCarthy to respond. And you look, I mean, he's been in this situation um, before, but Michigan, Jim Harbaugh was 0-2 in previous playoff appearances and got his first win over a talented Alabama team. I mean, Zach, I think what the driving force for Michigan really was Blake Corum. He had 19 carries for 83 yards, and his touchdown was the difference in the game in overtime. And like I just when you need a play, whether it's through the air or through on the ground, Blake Corum delivered. So I mean, he was such a fun guy to watch all throughout the game. Same with Roman Wilson for the Wolverines. He had a great impact, couple huge catches down the stretch. But Jack, I honestly feel like this game should have been a little bit more of a blowout than it was. I mean, it was only a 7 point game, and if
Yeah,
Michigan handles their special teams well, it's a different game, especially in that first half. But Alabama made adjustments. You know what I mean, Jack? They made
yeah,
adjustments coming out of the second half.
yeah. I thought if I may set that, I thought Mason Cole was playing center for Alabama there for a second because
I know, man.
he was throwing, he was snapping over the head, everything else. Hey, at least
Yeah.
can you report eligible in college? Is that a thing?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Oh, sure, why not? Yeah, it's got to make sure. We'll talk about this later. But this is a little foreshadowing for the Steelers segment. But yeah, at least everyone on Alabama reported as eligible if they had to, and didn't get called for a penalty.
Yeah, there you
But
go, Zach. No,
we'll get into that. I just had to squeeze them in there. Proceed.
great. No, yeah, for sure, man. No, that's timely and noteworthy as we'll get into, Zach. But I mean, Nick Saban said multiple times that college football playoff is a game of adjustments because you know what the other team's about because you've been waiting a month to play these games. You know, so it's been. I mean, it was just really fun to watch. But I think if Michigan handles their spot, like they had a missed kick, but also I mean two muffed uh, punt returns in this game.
They had a
Um,
freshman back there that muffed one late in the
yeah,
game.
yeah. I mean, and I appreciate that you have a true freshman there because that shows the ultimate amount of trust in him, and he made a couple big plays down the stretch. But and I know if I was in that situation, I'd probably muff the punt too. But I think what Michigan's done so well this year, just in the Big Ten, they've done what they're supposed to do. They've blown out teams in the Big Ten, and obviously against Alabama, you got to take your opportunities. But if Alabama makes a couple more plays, it's a different story. But I mean, as much as Alabama's um, uh, offense uh, struggled. They were still 7 points, only 7 points behind Michigan. So it was a great defensive game, Zach. It really was, and I think that the tough thing for Alabama was just that they couldn't rely consistently on Jalen Milroe because he had a series of really good throws, but then he'd miss an easy one, or the snap, as you mentioned, Zach, would go over his head, or it wasn't clean. They had pre-snap penalties. So, I mean, I think Alabama. It speaks to their level of competitiveness and their level of excellence because they were right there with Michigan, even after battling through adverse circumstances. But Jalen Milroe did not play as well as J.J. McCarthy did, Zach, and I thought that was the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that game because when I turned it on, I turned it on with 10 or so minutes ago in the first quarter, and it was still nothing. I'm like, wow. I'm like for
Yeah,
Alabama, Michigan. I'm surprised by that.
no, I
But
expected a shootout for
yeah,
sure.
I did too. And that game kind of ended up did turning. Well, that first game really wasn't sure. The second one was. We took it into in a second. But I think that Michigan, just did better in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, they
Um,
did.
yeah, it just and the big thing for Michigan was capitalizing on miscues. That was the thing.
Yes,
They had multiple um, special teams issues, and then Michigan pounced on them and ended up getting the win in overtime. Moving forward now to Michigan also remains undefeated going into the national championship, which will be played January the 8th. In where do they play that?
Houston.
Houston. Yes. Moving on to the next game, we have number 3 Texas and number 2 Washington at Washington 13-0. They got the victory over Texas by a score of 37-31. Quarterback Michael Penix Jr. went 29-38 for 430 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Danny, your thoughts on that shootout of a game?
Yeah, Zach, you said it, man. It definitely was a shootout, and I thought that Michael Penix was excellent for
Yes,
Washington. I mean, he was excellent, and
making
uh,
NFL caliber throws,
yes,
a
no, I
lot
mean,
of them.
I mean, he's already in rare air because I think Joe Burrow in his national championship run with LSU, he had like 490 some passing yards, but Michael Penix is next up on the list. So I mean, that shows how already in rare company is. And Michael Penix is a guy that's been around for a while.
Yeah,
He transferred from Indiana to Washington, and Washington obviously a smaller school out west, but they had that belief. And Washington wins close games. I mean, they're past. Uh, Now we're too far up, but they're past uh 4 or 5 games were all decided by one touchdown or less.
Uh-huh.
Against Oregon, they won 34-31. Against Oregon State, they won 22-20. This is a team that finds a way. And in college football, just as Alabama did to get to this point, you got to find a way. If Jalen Milroe doesn't make a spectacular throw on 4th and 31 for the Tide, they're not in that position. But you find a way, and that's exactly what Washington did. Daylon Johnson went down for the Huskies at a massive, massive moment that gave Texas new life. That
Mm-hmm.
gave Texas a chance to stop the clock. And credit to Quinn Ewers, who was not too shabby. And I think he's leaning towards going back next year and not declaring for the NFL draft until next year. But Penix was obviously better, but Ewers was no slouch, 24 for 43 with 318 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, credit to Texas because they got all the way up until the 12-yard line. But
Right.
if Washington and their defense don't believe that they can make a stop with 12 on the 12-yard line, then Texas could have easily been in that position. Football is oftentimes a game of bounces and a game of how you respond to adversity.
Uh-huh.
And Washington did not blink. It's so easy. They were up by 13 points with 3 minutes left, and it finished a 6-point game. That is hard for any team to do. To focus and have that level of concentration on defense, but that's exactly what Washington did. And I just think that it's gonna be a really, really good national championship, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be. I said that I thought that it might be a little bit more of a blowout because that's what we've seen in recent years. But Zach, I think this game is
Mm-hmm.
between Michigan and Washington is going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, yeah. This game's gonna be a shootout. Two undefeated teams. It's a 1-2 matchup. I
Yeah.
think this is gonna come up and be a really good. And I think Michigan will be dethroned by the Huskies of Washington
Oh wow, Zach!
by a
Oh
score
my
of
God,
28, no, 35-7.
35-7. Okay, all right, Zach. Dude. Yeah, like you said, Zach. This is mano a mano, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
why teams
Correction,
uh play.
correction. 35-28.
Okay,
35-28. Yep.
I was like, you're super. I respect it. I respect it, man.
Yeah, thirty-five
No,
twenty-eight.
I'm excited. I think. Oh man, I'm gonna pick Michigan. I think Michigan's gonna win 30-27. But Zach, when you talk about two teams, like you said, undefeated, who do the right things in order to be here, it's so nice. Alabama and Georgia are great for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
They're two juggernauts, and they um, are good year after year. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart run great programs. But how about a guy um, like Jim Harbaugh? He's 0-2 in previous college football games, but doesn't blink. He and it's easy probably for him to um, compare himself to his brother, who's the number one seed in the NFL. But he trusted the process, and he really could have given up and gone on to greener pastures when times got tough at Michigan. He had that whole cheating scandal to overcome, And how about even probably even more so on the for Washington, their head coach, Kalen DeBoer. He's a guy. This is his second year. He got a job offer for Alabama and turned it down because he um really, really encouraged Michael Penix to come back. And when he did, he didn't want to quit on his guys. This is the epitome of what college football is about, Zach. And I just am really excited for January 8th, man.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun one. Moving on to the Steelers now. So it has come down once again to Week 18. Now the Steelers, there are technically five scenarios. The easiest path to the playoffs. Not to mention this game will be officiated by referee Brad Allen, which we'll get into that. Well, we actually got into that before, but when I saw the reports that Brad Allen had this game and his crew had this game, I was like, oh my god, what could go wrong? And Danny, your thoughts on this? So I saw something that Allen and his crew were demoted from or I'm sorry, downgraded from the NFL playoffs, so they will not work the playoff games. So why in turn are they giving them not one but two straight games on national TV with big playoff implications?
Zach, I'm not sure, man. And if I had a answer that was better than I'm not sure, I'd give it to the only thing, and obviously, for those that didn't see the Monday night game between the Lions and the Cowboys, Brad Allen was center stage, or actually the Saturday game, but
Saturday, yeah.
yeah, the Saturday game. Brad Allen was center stage in his role with that game because two offensive linemen for the Detroit
Three.
Lions. That's right. Yeah, three. I mean, anyway, the guy that caught the ball did not report as eligible,
Meanwhile,
according to
he
Allen,
did.
but
So
he did.
yeah, he did. So Allen had gotten confused because what they were trying to do is they were trying to make a decoy for
Yeah.
was it Dallas? Who was it? Was it Dallas that got screwed, or was it?
I mean, like, it was, yeah, Skipper too, like Skipper and all those guys. They're
Yeah,
trying. Detroit wanted Dallas to be confused
yeah.
on who was gonna go out for a pass. So it's a confusing situation because they're sending more guys than are actually gonna
Report.
report as eligible just for a decoy, like you said, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
But um, Skipper that ended up catching the ball did look like he reported as eligible,
Yeah, he
but they
gave the signal,
right.
and
Jared Goff gave the yep.
and he was acknowledged, and apparently you have to give the signal, and you have to say you're reporting as eligible,
And
which Stafford
that
said
is
that he'll get fined for that, I'm sure, and the coach will
right,
get fined.
right. No, I mean that's a like football. I really enjoy watching football, but there's so many things to keep straight, and that's why refs
Mm-hmm.
have a hard job. But that's why the NFL refs have the like most amount of resources available as any refs in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, obviously, I'm hopeful that the game between the Ravens and Steelers does not come down to a pass interference call or an ineligible man downfield call,
Mm-hmm.
but it could, because we've seen movies
We've
like
seen
that.
it before.
Exactly. So I mean, obviously, referees have a very tough job in the
Yes.
world of sports because they are never the good guy.
Nope.
Um, except maybe Wes McCauley. I think Wes McCauley might
Ah,
be.
yes. Wes McCauley.
But
He's
but but yeah. I mean, so Steelers fans like you and me, Zach, are not exactly happy about that. But at the end of the
yeah,
day,
yeah.
Steelers gotta execute. Zach. Zach, how do you
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. The Steelers have to not put Brad Allen and crew in position to throw flags, potentially make questionable calls like
exactly? I mean, yeah, you're exactly right, Zach. Turning to the game here a little bit, we just John Harbaugh just recently announced that Lamar Jackson would not start and that Tyler Huntley would start. Zach, what are your thoughts on that, man?
that. I think that could be interesting because the Steelers play against Lamar and company really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Tyler Huntley seems to dice us up.
Yeah.
Our
No.
defense still kind of looks like Swiss cheese a little bit. A
Right?
whole bunch
Because
of
we, I
holes
mean,
in the
we did
middle
have
of the field. Yeah.
23 points against Seattle. Yep. No, Zach.
Uh, yeah. So
That's it.
I
Go
think
ahead.
with that starters in there, I think I think we'll still win. I'll get to the scenarios in a second. Um, but I think the Steelers will still pull out a victory. And so going to the scenarios now, I think they'll win by a score of 21-14.
There we go. All right, Zach.
And your prediction?
I Yeah, Zach. I think so. I've been ever since we got the news that Tyler Huntley was starting instead of Lamar Jackson. I'm debating what um, level the Steelers are going to show up with. Are we going to show up like we are coming off of a hot streak? Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph is also starting a quarterback, by the way. Forgot to
Yes,
mention that.
but
Yes.
yeah, no, that's probably for Pittsburgh fans. That's more important than who we're playing against. But I think the Steelers will come out with a team that knows how to score 30 plus a game. Mason Rudolph has put the ball where receivers can make plays, and that's the biggest thing that Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky were not able to do when they started. So I mean, I think I am really, really excited to watch this Steelers offense because I think we can score 30 plus a game. So I think we are going to win. I'm going to say 35 20, 35-17. Because here's the thing, Zach, is I think the Steelers are just going to come out and in a rivalry game, just I think we're going to dominate. I think we're going to control the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think T.J. Watt's going to get after Tyler Huntley. And I think Mike Tomlin. There's nobody better to get into the playoffs than Mike Tomlin. I mean, we always find a way. Now, once we get there, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be tough, and all the more frustrating, Zach, as you mentioned, man. I mean, we need help
Yeah.
because of our inconsistent performance. So even if we win, we might not even get in the playoffs, which is frustrating.
However, I am pretty confident given the scenarios here. So there are technically 5 scenarios, 2 of which involve Steelers Ravens ties. We will be excluding those. So the easiest would be all right. So one. Steelers win against Ravens and Bills lose to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
2. Steelers win against the Ravens. Jaguars lose or tie the Titans. 3 Steelers win, Texans Colts tie. No, we're not doing that. There is a scenario where the Steelers can get in with a loss, and that is the Steelers lose, the Jaguars lose, the Broncos win, and Texans Colts does not end in a tie. Given those scenarios, I am fairly confident that let's see, that either I'm gonna say the Bills lose to Miami.
Yeah, I that's probably the. I mean, that's
but first and foremost, the Steelers must take care of business.
Yes, 100%, Zach, 100%, and obviously
of scenarios 1 and 1, or what's the other one? Crap. Who did I say? Between 1 or 3, what do you think is more likely?
Yeah, Zach, I think I think the Dolphins are because the Dolphins are still playing for a playoff seed. If they win, they're already in the playoffs. But if they win, they got a higher seed. And obviously, Baltimore has the number 1 seed in the AFC locked up. So they're going to rest Lamar Jackson. But I mean, it's still a rivalry game. So they're still going to. I mean, their backups know what's at stake here. But I think, like you said, Zach, the most common scenario that I'm rooting for is the Dolphins beating the Bills. But Zach, that's not till Sunday night. We play on Saturday.
Yeah.
So when the Steelers win, we're going to be optimistic and say when the Steelers win,
Yes.
we have to take care of business. But when the Steelers win,
Hmm.
um, it's gonna be a nervous day of football, Zach,
Yeah,
because
we'll be scoreboard watching all freaking day.
we will.
Actually, I think Miami I think is hurt. I don't think actually I'm gonna correct myself here. I think the Jaguars will lose to the Titans.
Mike Bravel said that losing sucks. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
You want to talk
fired
about
up
that?
to.
You want to talk about that? Actually, no. We're kind of short on time. Um, so, Danny, your final thoughts on this edition of the Local Lowdown podcast?
Yeah, Zach. Well, it's certainly been a football heavy podcast here, which I've
It
enjoyed,
has.
man. I mean, this is January football here in a
Uh
new year,
huh.
and all that we can ask for as Steelers fans, with all that the 2023 season and about to be the 2024 season has been, is a chance. We have that chance.
So
Come.
you're saying there's a chance?
Exactly, Zach. And I mean, we have not made it easy. We've lost to two-win teams, but we somehow found a way with Mason Rudolph. So I cannot wait for the Steelers to play the Ravens, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen, man.
And hopefully, the next time we talk to you, the Steelers will be in the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, listening. Thank you in advance to Ken out there. He was not in the chat today, but thank you to Ken in advance for listening as always. And Ken, happy New Year as always from both me and Danny. And until next time, you know who I am, you know who he is, and we will see you next time.